This is Glauber Contesso. He's an investor in the cryptocurrency who had recently gone viral for Shiba Inus and Elon Musk memes. You guessed it, it's the infamous Dogecoin. Now, Glauber vowed to become a millionaire, and he did, but fast forward to today, Dogecoin's value has gone down over 90%, and Glauber's millions are now worth just barely over 300K. Yet, despite all this, Glauber refuses to sell his shares, and in fact is still investing in the failing cryptocurrency. Why does Glauber refuse to sell when the more obvious logical solution would be to do so? So if you've ever let unworn clothes pile up in your closet just because they were expensive, or gone to an event you were really dreading just because you'd already bought tickets, you're familiar with the sunk cost fallacy. Now, this is the idea that when people have invested a lot of resources into something that isn't working, they will continuously invest more resources to try and fix it instead of cutting their losses and moving on. So your investments, whether that be emotional or financial, is what we call the sunk cost. So this is essentially unrecoverable, and so no matter what you do moving forward, you're unable to recover what you've already invested. So now you're left with the question, what can I do to yield the best results for my future? And this is where a lot of people fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy. Now, instead of choosing the best option for your future, a lot of people will base their decision on the desire to ensure that their past investments do not go to waste. And so a lot of people will justify their decisions by saying things like, I've already spent so much time on this, I might as well continue, or I don't want to let the money I invested go to waste. And so relating this back to the example with Glauber, we know that he's invested both a lot personally and financially. And so we can start to see why it's so hard for him to let go of this stock. And so if you're sticking with a plan that no longer serves you, you might be trying to correct something called cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is essentially the uncomfortable state of mind when your beliefs and actions don't align. And so, for example, if you had the belief that fast fashion labels were really bad for the environment, but you had the action of continuously buying from these cheap fast fashion labels, you would experience cognitive dissonance. To correct this dissonance, you can either adjust your action or adjust your belief. So here you can either adjust your action by stopping your purchases from these companies, or adjust your belief and convince yourself that these labels practice ethical sourcing. And so relating this again back to our example with Glauber, if he had the belief that Dogecoin was losing him money, but he had the action of continuously investing in the coin anyways, he could experience cognitive dissonance. And so a way to relieve this cognitive dissonance would be to convince himself that Dogecoin is actually going to make him money. And so by doing so, he is relieving dissonance, and this could be another reason why he's still investing in this coin. And so sometimes when we do make decisions that don't line up with our beliefs, we may be doing so due to external pressures. And so potentially a reason why that Glauber is still holding on to his stock is due to a phenomenon called groupthink. Now, groupthink is essentially the idea that group cohesiveness can become so strong that it overrides realistic appraisals of reality. So it becomes more important to reach a unanimous opinion rather to voice your concerns and evaluate other ideas objectively. And so, especially in our modern day with social media, it becomes very easy to congregate with like-minded people. We're attracted to people who are familiar or who are similar to us. And so we find a lot of these communities of like-minded individuals. So back when Dogecoin was at its peak, its social media presence was almost overbearing. So if you were part of a community that had a lot of Dogecoin fanatics, it might have been really hard to see the downsides of investing in Dogecoin, or you might have felt this immense pressure to hold your stocks or continue to invest. And so what are our main takeaways today? It's important to evaluate our ideas critically, even if you don't necessarily agree with those opinions. By acknowledging phenomena like groupthink, you're better able to make informed decisions. Now, let's say despite all of this, you still decide to invest in a failing cryptocurrency and you end up losing millions of dollars. No biggie. We must learn that it's okay to leave a situation and cut your losses no matter what. And so it's important to note that even if you've made a mistake, it's important not to hold on to this mistake just because you spent a lot of time making it. Thank you.